had like 2 minor slides left in chapter 9. You've already dealt with its quiz and everything anyway. So we'll go to moving on to chapter 10. And Windows' help. What are the 4 P's of marketing?
Price, packaging,
Price, product, promotion,
Product, price, place, promotion. Place deals with what? Locations, distributions, logistics of getting the product to the customer, right? We're going to be talking about all 4 of them, obviously. We've already looked at them from an intro kind of perspective. Now we're getting into the deeper meat of each subject, starting with the product. Chapter 10, we're looking at product concepts, how we figure out how to classify products, look at it from the business's standpoint of organization, categorization, how we look at branding, which of course is a lot of what we're seeing over here, examples of brands. Then we'll move on in future chapters, looking of course at each of the other elements of the marketing mix. Which begs the question, of course, what is a product? Merchandise. Okay?
Whatever service or provider is trying to sell you, whether it's a service or idea or
Whatever they're trying to sell you. Merchandise, service, idea. Is that it? That's all right, but is that it? Well, if we're talking like the place element, we're talking distribution, that's like how I gotta go get the thing, right? Can I order it online? Is it a digital thing I can download? Do I have to go to a store?
and if the packaging and everything is into.
Packaging plays into the product. You gotta think about, for one thing, every topic dealing with marketing, with a product, with an idea, with a service, an experience, how you're selling it, who you're selling it to, where you're selling it, how much you're selling it for. You got to be able to classify it into one of these 4 areas. So you got to think about, if you're asked a question of what part does this play in the marketing mix, where does it land? For instance, the product, everything, both favorable and unfavorable, that a person receives in an exchange. Usually we're talking about, of course, you're buying something and giving the company money, but that's not always completely the case. You might be dealing with a friend and you trade stuff. That's still an exchange, trading one good for another, something you don't want and they do, and vice versa. The exchange also, of course, includes your time and your effort that you are giving up in exchange to get their, whatever it is they're selling. Whether that's a tangible good off the shelf at Walmart, whether it's the car sitting on the lot over at Carl Hogan, whether it's a service, because I could also then go back to, say, Carl Hogan or Walmart to get that car's oil changed. That's a service element. It includes a tangible component that the actual oil and the filter are changed out in my car. They tell me. I'm not going behind and checking them. I'm trusting them that they're performing the service that they said they did. If you get a haircut, that's a service. You may or may not walk out with anything actually tangibly related to that. We might have ideas being exchanged, say from nonprofits' standpoint. What is it, the message that they are trying to share with you, provide to you, get out into the world? That's an exchange. You might get a benefit from them by giving them some kind of a donation. You get the benefit of knowing you're helping spread a message that you agree with, further a cause that you're passionate about, and there could be some kind of tangible ancillary benefit to that you might get, say, a tax benefit from it as well. But the product includes any or all of these, as well as everything else that surrounds it. Literally, the tangible good might come with a package surrounding it. That's part of this. Absolutely. We'll look at that a little later. It's all the other stuff. Warranties, guarantees, training, help manuals, all that other stuff that may or may not come with this stuff we're buying. We have to start at the product. That's the core, because if we don't have the thing that we're buying and selling, we're exchanging, it doesn't matter the rest of the marketing mix. It doesn't matter to promote it. It doesn't matter to price it. It doesn't matter to distribute it to you if you don't have the thing, whether that's a tangible thing or not, basing all of your decisions. You have to have all four elements of the marketing mix, but you got to start with the product. We can divide it, of course, into business and consumer products. We've looked extensively already at business marketing, looking at the various products we can classify, major equipment, accessories, and all that kind of good stuff. Now we're looking a little bit more deeper, a little more focused, which is where a lot of marketing, we talked about so much business, but now we're going to look at the consumer side. Products bought to satisfy the individual's needs, wants, and desires. How do we know, how do we classify if it's a business or a consumer product?
Intended use.
Intended use. I can buy the same thing off the shelf. If I'm buying to take home and use at my house, it's most likely going to be a consumer product. If I'm buying it to take back to the office to use as part of my business, it's a business product. It's not, strictly speaking, what is the thing. It's usage, where it's going, why it's being bought, exchanged for. So, we can divide products into consumer and business. We've dealt with business. Looking at consumer products, we can classify those in a few different ways. Convenience products are those things that we buy often. From a, say, interest standpoint, it might be low. From a decision-making and shopping standpoint, it's going to be very low. We're not going to spend a lot of time researching, comparing, looking at different options. This is the idea of convenience stores, for instance. They're named that way from a distribution, from a place standpoint, absolutely. But a lot of the stuff they're selling is stuff we need at a moment's notice, or we didn't expect to need when we walked in. There's a reason we buy a lot of candy, chips, beef jerky, sodas when we're on road trips. It's we got to stop for gas anyway. We got to go to the potty. Maybe we actually want a snack to keep us going and awake, going forward. Convenience. Am I going to pay more than I would have if I bought it at Kroger? Yeah, because we're paying for convenience sometimes. Convenience products can also be, of course, at other stores. It's the reason there's the candy magazines, other little doodads right there at the checkout line at every grocery store. We can also think of it, of course, from that place standpoint. We buy gas because we have to have it to run our automobiles, but we buy maybe the most convenient one because it's the one we pass on the way to work every day anyway, instead of going explicitly across town to save a few cents a gallon. That can fall under a convenience issue. Shopping products come into play when we're actually putting more effort into it. This is where a lot of the stuff we buy, especially the first time we buy it, is going to land. It's going to cost more. It's going to take some comparison. We might actually go research stuff. But this is not the huge, big ticket items like buying a car. This is the stuff you're buying in the rest of your life for the most part. Clothing, shoes, maybe a TV, depending on your budget and how much you're spending, could fall somewhere between shopping and maybe more of a specialized product. But for the most part, we spend our time on shopping products because they cost more, they take more decision making, they take more shopping in comparisons. They're the stuff that we're going to spend our consumer time, effort, and a lot of our money on. We'll look at that in a second, actually. Specialty products. Sure, talk about it here. Stuff that has a market. It's out there. Consumers are buying it, shopping for it, interested in it. But it's not always stuff on the store shelf. It's not always stuff that we can find a lot of options for. Why was eBay started? What do you think? Any of you use eBay now? Why or how? Do you buy auctions from other people? Okay.
Better
Sell anything?
prices. Yeah.
Why do you use eBay? Or how do you use eBay?
Look up things that I probably don't want to go to stores.
Comparison shopping. eBay has absolutely evolved over the years. It's now very much built on as just another marketplace, kind of acting like an Amazon. But you can still find literal individual people putting up the stuff they don't want for other people to buy directly from them as they do want it. Maybe stuff that's rare, stuff that's collectible, stuff that cannot be found on the store shelves any longer. Be careful with toys, because especially, say, whether you have children yet or not, if you do at some point, if there's a favorite toy your very small child likes, buy 2 of them. Because when it breaks and then they're upset, it probably can't be found again later. My oldest, my son, was given a little tiny baby bear. It's one of these little for real friends, animals alive thing. It moves and it coos, and it was very cute, and it was a little baby bear, and he had it when he was an infant, given to him. Don't put it in the crib. But as he grew up, little robotic bear thing died. Mechanism stopped working, batteries wouldn't replace them, they still didn't work. So we decided, let's go get another one. Guess what? Now it's a collectible. That $8 bear at Walmart is now $90 on eBay. Do you think he has one? He's got the same little sad one that just lays there now. It's always napping.
It's sweet.
This is sweet. Specialty products. Cars. We can go to Carlos, we can buy a new car, we can buy a used car, or we can go to Barrett Jackson. What's Barrett Jackson? Auctions of rare collectible cars. Now let's see if this worked. It worked in my office, it was acting up a minute ago. Let's see if this link will work. It's going to try and show me an ad first, and then hopefully the video would start.
I just like giving people the nod. Like, yeah, I know.
The sound of that, Haffey, just gets you right.
Promotional. Put an ad on the topic that you know the consumer's already there to see.
Integrity for people who
So
love
insurance, because you know they already like the classic car stuff.
Like this is a car that Ray ever.
Nope.
Like this is a car that Ray ever had previewed a little while ago in 1952 Alfa Romeo.
1952, this is old. It's just an old piece of machinery, right? Killing me. Yeah, you can go. 1952 Alfa Romeo probably was not overly expensive. It's an Italian collectible sports car. Now, skip to the end, it sold for $500,000. You can go out and you can buy $500,000 sports cars today, off the lot. They don't really keep them on lots too often. Or you can go buy collectible items, rare items, specialty items. Stuff that you're going to spend a lot of time often searching for, whether it's super expensive or not. Sometimes it's just so rare that we can't find the thing. If you have a favorite brand of soda or chips or something like that, we might classify it as a specialty product if your retailer you're used to buying it from no longer carries it. Maybe you have to go somewhere else to get that. I've seen people have their specific soda. They really like that one, and my grocery store stopped selling it. Does anybody I know within like an hour sell this? I'll go and buy it by the pallet and just keep it on stock for when I want it. The specialty products sometimes. Stuff that we might spend more time, effort, and absolutely sometimes more money on. Least amount of shopping, probably one of the lower expenses, least amount of time and effort in the exchange, to the absolute most time, effort, sometimes money in the exchange, and then a lot of what we do, right there in the middle. Which just leaves one on the end, is unsold products. Unsolved products is that stuff that either we don't know it exists, so if I don't know if it exists, how can I know I want it? Or it's the stuff we don't want to buy, but we have to. You might put gas into that. You don't want to buy it, but you have to in order to survive in this area, sure. But for stuff that we don't know exists as a consumer, that's marketing's job. That's where the marketer comes in. If you don't know my brand exists, my product exists, I have this thing for sale, I'm opening a new store, there's a grand opening of a restaurant, that's marketing's job from a promotion standpoint to get you aware of it. Because if the product's available, but the customer doesn't know it, the customer is not going to buy it. That's not how we do business. It's not how we're going to make any money. Different types of products, how we can classify them. Here's a version of shopping products, things we can compare. Absolutely. I don't know, this kind of looks like it relates to part 4 of your semester assignment as well. Something like a national brand like Slim Fast, because it's the biggest one up here. Or I could go to Walmart and get the Equate brand. Slim Fast Optima or Equate's Ultra Weight Loss Shake. There's a Slim Fast Ultima too. Ultra matches up too. I might want some cashews. I can go buy Planters, or I can buy whatever brand that is. I can get Reese's peanut butter cups or Market Pantries. Market Pantry is Publix brand, maybe? Some not even doesn't have a package on it anymore. Some kind of probably a protein bar with peanut butter and chocolate in it, I'm guessing. And even from a non-food related, I can buy Cascade dish gel or just liquid gel. Do we see similarities in these products? Yes. Look at the bottom. Look at the detergent. Green bottles, yellow tops, swoopy side handle. Absolutely. The cans here. Weight loss shakes are built with thicker aluminum cans for some reason. And they're absolutely going to do it. Quite would love to not do that. But in order to make it feel like you're getting the same thing out of it, they still put it on there. These peanut butter cups are still that same scalloped edge shape. They're wrapped in probably a little piece of black paper, then wrapped in an aluminum foil with the branding on it. Same, similar shape, colors, sizing, things like that. National brand versus maybe a private or store brand, stuff you're going to deal with part 4. We're going to talk about it in a minute too. If I'm a consumer, I have to decide when I'm shopping, do I see a difference in the branding? If I know Reese's and Slim Fast and Planters and Cascade are branded, maybe there's been commercials, there's been advertising, there's been promotions happening for those products. But I get to the store and I go, oh, but this other brand is 20% cheaper. Price is lower. Have to decide whether I think as a consumer that I'm getting something extra out of the national brand, the branded, manufactured brand product, whether I think it's worth more to me. That's what you're doing in your taste test in part 4, is you're going to put it out, basically it's going to look more like that. You could unwrap the Reese's, you could pour these up into a couple of cups, you could put a few nuts on a plate. Please don't try and give your people soap. Not the right answer. But you're putting the two brands, a private brand and a national brand, against each other blindly. Just saying, taste this, smell this, look at this, touch this, see what you think of it. I don't know which one's which. Do you like one of those bars better than the other? By looking at it? They look very, very similar. If I unwrap these chocolates, am I going to be able to tell the difference? Maybe not visually, but it's also a taste test. They're going to taste the thing and decide if one of them tastes sweeter, one of them tastes more bitter, one doesn't have as good a chew to it, whatever it might be. If you're doing a drink base, does one still taste sweeter or more bitter? Does one flow better? Does one have some kind of kick when it goes down? Whatever it might be. These are all homogeneous products. Stuff that without the branding, without the packaging, without telling you the names, you might not be able to tell them apart. You unwrap those peanut butter cups, you unwrap those bars, you pour up these, I'm guessing, a whitish Spanish color based on its vanilla drinks. I can't necessarily tell them apart. Be careful with your taste test because some companies are smart enough to make it impossible to blend them. If your cookie says Oreo in it, if your chocolate says Hershey's on it, it's very hard to fake out a substitute, okay? So be careful if you choose. I'd suggest maybe not the Oreos, because Oreo says Oreo on it, because that's a good idea, actually, if you could get away with it as a company. It costs Hershey's more at some point in its manufacturing process to build molds that have Hershey's in it. Make sure that these pips, because that's what each little individual brick in a Hershey bar is called, random trivia bonus for you, extra. If you're choosing products, make sure the customer can't otherwise tell which one is which by explicit branding type thing. Those are all homogeneous products. We can compare them based on very easily accessible things. Even if it didn't say Oreo on it, it might be a black chocolate sandwich cookie with a white cream center, right? And I can compare those across brands, across national brands, or some private brands. Price obviously is going to come into play. If all of this stuff is comparable, easily changeable, shopping options, they're homogeneous in nature, what then might be some products that could be heterogeneous in nature? That by the very nature of them, the customer can't just compare two side by side and go which one's cheaper, for instance. Can you think of anything?
Oreo and a Hershey bar.
True. Both if you classify as, say, a chocolatey snack. How's about houses? Could I say that two houses are in Columbus, Mississippi, you have 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms? Could I classify them very closely together? Are you otherwise just going to say, I don't need to see them. Just tell me which one's cheaper, I'll take that one. No. Why might there be things that we care about?
Structural integrity, neighborhood.
Structural integrity, neighborhood, what?
Just overall quality of the home.
Quality. It's a very ambiguous term, isn't it?
Whether or not it has mold, or the window's broken.
Features. Modernized.
But the older one in the bad neighborhood with some structure issues are probably going to be a cheaper option.
Start off with.
For some reason, these brands, and the one behind these we can't see, they're going to try and convince us that the national brand is worth paying more for. Sometimes they're going to claim they're using better ingredients. Sometimes they're just going to trade on their name. Whether you personally have a thought that I'm going to trust the Oreo brand or the Planters brand nuts, I'm not going to buy the private brand or whatever. Or if you're one that is very value conscious or price sensitive consumer, I'm going to buy whatever's the cheapest one on the shelf and we'll be okay. When you put it into a blind format and you test them back and forth, you really start to be able to compare. I'm not saying you're going to have everybody choose national or everyone choose private. You might have it very close. Some products you're going to find that people absolutely want the national brand. There's a quality difference or a taste difference between them. But a lot of times I see it, it's fun to watch, when the private brands win out. And then the taste testers themselves are surprised by that. Like, well, I'm not buying that again. I'm going to go with the cheaper brand, save money if I like it better anyway. If we've got homogeneous products that we can compare across brands just based on appearance, taste, price particularly, very simple next to them each other on the shelf, we got to come up with a marketing game of how do we promote it? How do we convince the customer that they should pay more for our national brand? Walmart's doing a pretty good job convincing you should pay less for their brands. The real estate agent's job is not to just say, these are both 3-bed houses. Which one do you think is the cheaper one that you want to pay for? It's, matching the customer's true needs, profiles, budget to the exact property that matches their needs, desires, wants, individually. Product lines, product items, product mixes. We said the marketing mix is the 4 Ps, right? We then break that down and go to the product mix. Everything that the organization sells. We're listing this as products, thinking about it, and we're usually talking about it from actual tangible goods, sitting on the shelf type stuff. But this does translate. A service is still under product. I don't want you to get confused by that. Just because it's intangible, we don't touch it, we don't walk away with a bag full of something when we leave the place, that doesn't make it any less of a product. We will look at services marketing, particularly, and how we market things from a service standpoint differently than from a tangible goods standpoint. But for now, when we're looking at product items, product lines, product mixes, this can just as easily be substituted the word service, a service item, a service line, a service mix, okay? The mix is everything the company sells. We then can break that down into lines, groups of closely related items, and then the item itself is just one distinct thing that is sold. For instance, in your book, this deals with section 2 of your semester assignment, for instance. This is an example of Campbell's product mix. When we look at how many lines they have, how many different lines a company has, that is the width of the product mix. So they have the soup line, the sauces line, the frozen entrees line, the beverages line, the biscuits line. Okay? How many different lines a company sells is the width of its product mix. Make sense? How deep each line goes, or any line goes, is the depth of that product line. Okay? So it's one of those things that you don't want to get your depth and your width confused. Okay? Pay attention to it. Section 2 of your semester assignment. Yeah, section 2 is going to get you to do this twice over. Choosing 2 other companies and developing a product mix table like this. Literally, I mean, I want you to make it look like this. You put the width, there are different line categories up the top, and you put the depth of each one down. And I give you the specifics of how many lines and how many items within those lines you got to do.
You said the depth is the number of
Items
in
within
that.
a line. So soup, in this instance, has the most items. Cream and chicken, cream and mushroom, vegetable, chicken noodle, tomato, bean with bacon, minestrone, clam chowder, French onion, and it keeps going. You go down the soup aisle and look at the multitude of options. That's all within maybe the soup section. It just keep going.
And width is like the categories, right? Width is more like the categories.
Width is the number of categories.
Right.
The number of lines. Each of these is a product line. Okay? So how many lines it has is how wide we would say their product mix would be. Okay? Anything else? The fact that Campbell sells chicken noodle soup and the fact that Campbell sells V8 juice, are those 2 products directly competing with each other? No. That's what we're going to find, of course, a lot of times is companies sell a multitude of products. If you're a consumer goods, food-based company like Campbell's, you're going to have foods and beverages and things, all sorts of different stuff. And that's one of the things that I caution you when you're building out, choosing your 2 companies. Just make sure that those 2 companies are not otherwise directly competing with each other. Okay? If you chose McDonald's that served food in a restaurant capacity, just because they serve food doesn't mean they're a direct competitor for Campbell's. So if Campbell's was one of your things, McDonald's being one of your things would have no trouble. Does that make sense? If I was to choose Progresso up against Campbell's, direct, very close competitor, not good. If you put Dodge automobiles and McDonald's food, very different, completely different, not going to have any carryover. Great idea. Okay? Go coming back. Each item is the specific version of the product that the company sells. We put a bunch of items that are similar into the line. That's how deep that line goes. The product mix is how many different lines the company then sells. This example happens to build out 4 as their minimum, which is close to what I tell you in your instructions for semester assignment. Make sure you pay attention to how many I tell you you got to have. But if a company wanted to start selling just one new product item, it might be in a whole new line. Just because it has one thing doesn't mean it's not necessarily another distinct line. If they sell biscuits all of a sudden when they had soups and sauces and frozen foods and beverages, that's a little bit different. If Campbell's suddenly started wanting to sell cheese, even if they just came out with cheddar cheese as their very first cheese they sold, if you stuck cheese right here and had cheddar below it, just because it only has one thing doesn't mean it's not a line. Okay? It just means it's a very shallow depth line. Okay? For example, how about Apple? I'll give you a hint. We're going to talk about Apple more than once today. What does Apple sell? Lots of stuff. I'll give you a hint. It's sitting right up here. Very top of their page is their product mix. It's the width. Their Mac line, their iPad line, their iPhone line, their watch line, their TV line. Music, even on its own, has its own kind of product line. And support's separate. They just stick it up there for design purposes. Apple's product mix is all these different categories of products. And if I click on one, like iPhone, they've got the iPhone 7, and also know, of course, if you're paying attention to it, you got iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. Those are 2 distinct items. iPhone 6S and Plus, 2 distinct items. iPhone SE is the 5th item. So their product line of iPhone then has 5 distinct product items that even then are still customizable based on color, based on size of your memory. So it's a very complex, very diverse idea. And if I click iPad, it's going to give me a different set. The iPad Pro, the iPad, the iPad Mini 4. All those are different items within the iPad line. So why would we do that? Here's some instruments of all bunch of different Campbell stuff. Not every one I got, but a bunch of them. Why would we use lines? One thing, we get economies of scale in different ways. For instance, in advertising, from promotion. If I advertise Campbell's soup, I can tell you all about Campbell's soup and how good it is, and healthy and tasty and available everywhere and it'll make you happy. I don't have to mention tomato or chicken noodle or minestrone. I can just talk about Campbell's soup and you'll know what it is. You'll be able to translate it, or if you liked one, you might like another. We can have package uniformity, the same size can, the same red label that says Campbell's, and some kind of white background, a bowl of soup, and its name sitting there. Very simple from a design standpoint, from a printing standpoint. If I know I need red ink, blue ink, I can classify that across categories and then just have to specify. I use a lot of green and yellows for my names, for some badging, things like that. Standardized components. If I knew a noodle over here in chicken, I could also do the same kind of noodle over there in beef, for instance. If I start out with vegetable broth in this soup, I could start out with the same vegetable broth in another. There's a way to advertise, package, develop the product itself based on some economy of the scale. Efficient sales and distribution. Again, I gotta convince you to carry Campbell's soup. Give me this much shelf space and I'll fill it with all my different product lines. I'm gonna send the truck from the Campbell's soup factory to whatever store or distributor, then I can just send it all at once. And we get an equivalent quality. This is a psychological issue from a customer standpoint. If I liked one of your things, if I've trusted you, if you satisfied my needs one time, the next time I need something a little bit different, I might trust you again. That's a very powerful, even if it's a very subtle idea. Because if we're trying to get customers, it takes a lot more time, it takes more effort, it is harder for a business to get a brand new customer to come in the door. It is much easier to satisfy the customer one time and convince them to come back. If their first experience with your business, whatever it is you sell or do, if you did it well, if you had good service, if you satisfied their need or want, the next time they have a similar need or want, they might come back to you. They are more likely to come back to you. It costs you less to convince them to come back to you. If you liked their broccoli soup, you might like their chicken noodle soup. It's the idea of lines build on customer loyalties. And in the reverse of that, if you failed me at one thing, I might expect you to fail me at another thing. How do we make adjustments to our mixes, lines, and items? Well, for instance, like we can come out with a new line. If Campbell suddenly started wanting to make cheese, sell cheese, they'd come up with a whole new line. So that's just a way you can broaden the width of your product mix, just with a whole new line. But if we're looking a little bit deeper at the products themselves, this thing, I don't know, Apple branded product. On this thing, to make it useful, I have a bunch of what? Apps. And I download them one time and I use them for the next 8 years unaltered, right? No, it always pops up a little number next to the little blue square that says, we got an update for you. I try and open an app or a game, it says, you can't use it, ha, you gotta go download a new one. That's always fun when you're in a hurry. Why? Well, for instance, that's a product modification. We put a product out there, we maybe see what worked and what didn't, what the customer liked and didn't like about it. Maybe we come out with a modification to make it better, to correct a problem. If our app is crashing on you or glitching on you, we modify it, we update it, still call the same app, still call the same product, might even still be in the same package, but maybe we tweaked the recipe of our soup. We just didn't have to tell you about it, we just took some maybe marketing research from the customer and fixed it, modified it. We didn't change the name of it, we didn't add something new, we didn't take something away, we just changed the product that's already out there. When we're talking about product repositioning, it's the same. Taking your product and convincing the customer to think of it differently. Then we got product line extensions and contractions. Basically, every year, Apple expands and contracts their product line. Because, take iPhone. The iPhone 7 is currently the newest model. Usually, Apple's timing is in September. They're going to tell us the new one. It's the huge debate. Will it be called 8? Will it be 7S? This is the 10th iPhone model, I think. So they're going to call it something even different and special because of that. The 6S was last year's model. The SE came out last year, but it's a repackaged 5S technically. But what you don't see is the 5S, the 6, the 5S, the 5, the 4S, the 4, the 3GS, the 2, the original iPhone. Is that what it's selling? They contracted that line. Whenever they launched the New Year's product, they cut the old one. It is purposefully outmoded. And when iPhone went from one option plus last year's model to throwing out a whole new one, when they came out with the SE, that was a contraction of their line. Expansion. Wait, it was an expansion of their line. Ways that we can look at our mixes. The item itself, change it, but keep it basically right where it is. Add to the line, take away from the line, changing the depth of it. We can add just whole new lines, changing the width of things, and we can reposition. We can take a product that's out there, that's been out there since the 1860s. What's it for?
Everything.
Oh gosh.
No.
Cooking.
What does it say?
Baking.
It's for baking. That's the product, right? It's all we use use it for. Don't look down here. In the 1860s, it was developed. Arm & Hammer started as a company strictly for baking. And sometime in the late 20th century, we stopped baking stuff until Food Network and Cooking Channel came back and started, and now we bake stuff again. But in the meantime, Arm & Hammer said, we don't want to die because people don't bake anymore. So we have to think about it. Hundreds of uses for their product. So Arm & Hammer has done a very good job of repositioning their product. They still sit it there in the baking aisle. It's still sitting there for you to buy and bake with. But you can also find it in a lot of other places.
Disgusting.
What?
That stuff is disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Yes.
If you use it like in your toothpaste, or you're talking about it from a cat litter standpoint. Don't get those mixed up. It's in your deodorants, it's in detergents now. It's a freshening and cleansing idea that people figured out. Baking soda works. They figured out people were already dumping just baking soda on top of their cat litter to make it smell fresher. They're dumping it in their laundry to help their laundry. So Arm & Hammer said, we can do that. They've repositioned their core product. That they're taking it, say, as an ingredient and putting it into different things. They're rebranding. They've expanded new product lines in that respect. It's a very good success story. Arm & Hammer is still here. It's still viable. It's still doing well because they didn't sit back and think, this is all we do. That can be very, very dangerous for a company. If we get good at something, sometimes we don't want to mess with it. This is what we've always done. We were founded in the 1860s. We've been doing baking wonderfully. We're the top baking soda provider for over a century. That's all we're going to do. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it well. And if the marketing environment, if the consumers around you disagree, move on, stop needing that product, if you don't adapt, evolve, change, reposition, add new options, then the consumers will leave you, and their money will go with them. It's very hard to get stuck in a rut as a company, and it's very hard to get out of it without very purposeful planning and meaning to. Okay? Branding. Arm & Hammer stuck that brand on all those different products there. Product within all those different products. What is branding? What do you think?
Logos,
Logos.
phrases like I'm loving it. Music.
Differentiation. The way to tell the difference. Your brand name, part of the brand that can be spoken. Letters, words, numbers. Your brand mark, the elements of the brand that cannot be spoken, the visual elements of it. Your brand equity, the value of the company in relation to your branding. How well do people know me? How well do people trust me? Are they going to choose me over other options based on my name? And a global brand. Absolutely a brand that is doing a lot of business, at least a third of its business, from outside its home country. So a couple things to look at. First, the video that may work. why we use them, how do we use them, how they've evolved obviously over time. And absolutely more and more every day, from a marketing standpoint, we have to pay attention to the customer and what they think. From a positioning standpoint, how do they view us? How do they feel that we are treating them, treating the world around us? What are we useful to them for? It's a very seismic shift, say, in retail. That companies are closing, shutting stores because they don't understand the customer or can't keep up with the customer or are somehow losing out to their competitors, like Amazon. Why do I need a bunch of clothing stores cluttering up Main Street, taking up all the valuable real estate when I can just buy it all online? And especially most of your ages, it's your fault. Why we're losing stores. It's rude. Branding. How do we use them? What do we do with them? That one was from, or at least used stats from 2010. Here's 2016's. Best global brands. Interbrand every year takes the value, how they calculate it, the value of brands, global brands, how we look at their brand equity and what they are worth to the consumer. Apple at number one at $178 billion in brand value, beating out Google at 133 and Coca-Cola down there at 73, which is down this year, but up, I think it was at 70 in 2010 based on their numbers. But it's up to them. I'd be okay being one of the top 3 brands in the world. It'd be all right. But think about this. These 4 brands, and there's another 96, I think, below them. Google, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, words. We can read them. How about this one? It's just a symbol, just a mark. But we know it, or you should know it. Always that black or silver. Elegance, technology, high class, high cost, on a neutral field behind it. Google especially has focused on colors. For one thing, I feel like it was a little bit of a, hey, Microsoft, we're going to copy some of your mentality, then we're going to go take the customers. It worked. Coca-Cola has always been red and white. Had some silver in there. That's their idea. It's also that old style. It's a font based on old nostalgia type feelings. And then Microsoft, it mixes. It's got a very simple, very clean, very business looking font, but it still tosses a brand mark on there too. Not as much as Apple, that's strictly a mark. Toyota, Word and mark. IBM, Word, but their little lines is part of their mark. Samsung, just a font. Amazon, down here, poor Amazon, they're doing terribly at only $50 billion in brand equity. This is not strictly speaking based on revenue, sales, any of that. This is the brand equity side. It happens to correlate well that the people that sell a lot also are going to be well known, of course. Amazon, not necessarily a logo discussion, but it's interesting all the stuff that Amazon has packed into this little logo. I can't really make much bigger for you. Lowercase font, non-threatening, maybe, but nice and chunky, easily read, very simple. Amazon, of course, comes from, maybe say, the Amazon River. Very long, very diverse river, gives you a lot of ecosystems to work through. Then they put this little thing. What is this?
A to Z.
From A to Z, absolutely. Find everything here. What else is it? Makes it look like a smiley face. Very subtly. They don't come out and tell you that, but if you happen to look at it and say, smiley face makes me happy, I like this company, they're not going to argue with you. Just these last few. Mercedes-Benz, absolutely written. Also a mark. GE, a mark with letters within it, so that works okay. BMW is a mark with the letters within it. It's also, of course, Mercedes and Toyota and BMW are those same ornaments on their hoods match this. And then just big old yellow M. What is that?
McDonald's.
Absolutely, it's McDonald's. I'm surprised that they're that low. Only at $39 billion in brand equity. It's still the #1 restaurant brand in the world. That's a pretty good stature to be in. Where's the next one? Trying to find another restaurant. I'm going to give up when I get to number 60. And that kind of shows McDonald's dominance in the category. If their brand is the most well-known brand, probably is one of the highest number of options that you can choose around the world. I had McDonald's in Italy because, wow, break from pasta. Brand equity is fantastic to have. If you're selling your company, merging your company, doing stock negotiations, brand equity plays into that. Well-known company's going to charge more when it sells, for instance. The mark, if we can convince people to know us without even having to say it, that's very powerful. Put it on our package, they know that's that one. I trust their quality, they've treated me well in the past. Absolutely. Can I say it? Is the name memorable? Is the name pronounceable? That can be an issue sometimes in global brands. If it was originally in French or Mandarin or something, does it translate? If it's in English, does it translate to other languages? Absolutely, that's an issue that can come into play. But companies now are working globally, absolutely. We are a global marketplace. Benefits? We identify them. It's Campbell's soup that we looked at. Campbell's soup, Campbell's soup, it's Campbell's soup. Remember me, love me, identify me. Come back and buy more of me. And guess what? We've come up with a new product, a new line, a new extension, a new item. Try it because you already know me and love me.
Our cheddar cheese.
What?
I said our cheddar cheese.
Why not? Would you not try it? Kraft might need another competitor. Think back to that little video we just watched. Identification was that very first point of branding. Literally, branding. We want to identify our products, our companies, our stuff from everybody else's stuff. I want you to know who I am and why you love me as opposed to anybody else that you could choose from. When it's on the shelf, I want you to look at the shelf and go, where's the brand I know and love? There it is. I'm choosing that one. That one's going in my buggy. That one's clicking buy it now. Whatever it might be. So when you need me, you come back and find me. And when I come up with something new, you trust me. You already have a relationship with me. It's easier for me as a company to sell you something new. How we can, of course, look at brands. We talked about this already. You're talking about this in part 4 of your semester assignment. We can look at manufacturer's brand. We can look at a private brand. We can look at captive brands, which we don't go into as much. So obviously, you're going to already do research on some of this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Manufacturer's brands, the brand name of the manufacturer. Apple computers, Apple iPhone, McDonald's Big Mac, for the manufacturer's brand. The private brand might be owned by a wholesaler or a retailer. Private label, the store brands, your Equates, your Great Values, your Psst brand burger, which is an interesting one. Sometimes, a lot of times, most of the time, the private brand store brands are cheaper. Not always. It's interesting to see when they do choose to make themselves the more luxurious brand. Publix does that some. They have some brands that they actually are their own store brands, but they have priced them higher than the national comparison because they're giving you, they claim, more quality or reliability or something. And then a captive brand is a brand that was a national brand, a manufacturer's brand, that got bought out by an individual store and now holds it on its own for that exclusive retailer, not necessarily knowing that it has a retailer affiliation. White Cloud. Y'all know White Cloud like toilet paper, for instance? It was a manufacturer's brand that Walmart bought out. So it still says White Cloud on it, but you can kind of only get it at Walmart. It's a captive brand. It's not a store brand because it's not Great Value brand, for instance, or Equate brand. Y'all play with that. Y'all do your own research on that as part of part 4 of your semester assignment. How we choose as a company to brand our products is completely up to us. Do we want each version, each item, within our lines, within our mixes, to be all under one big umbrella, under one family brand, making several different products from the same brand name, or do we want to give them each their own identity and let them stand on their own merits and therefore be branded and sold under their own merits, using different brand names for different products? It's the Apple iPhone, it's the Apple Mac, it's the Apple iPad. They're all family branded. But Coca-Cola, for instance, does not do it that same way. Coca-Cola has a lot of different brands. Absolutely, they have Coca-Cola, whether that's classic, all the different flavors. You can get vanillas and cherries and limes and all that kind of stuff. And that's a distinctly different brand than Sprite, which is different than Fanta, which is different than Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Coke Life. They've all come up with different brands. Now I'll give you, if you put Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Coke Life all together, that's kind of family branding.
What is Coke Life?
What?
What is Coke Life?
It's their newest thing. I think they're using only real sugar, maybe. They're trying to make it, or is it the one they're trying to do kind of a hybrid? Somewhere between Coke Zero with no calories and Coca-Cola with full calories. They're trying to make it, trying to upscale it just a little bit, but not make it too fancy. Sprite's completely different. Oh, and then they keep going. Dasani Water is Coca-Cola's brand. Minute Maid is Coca-Cola's brand. Powerade is Coca-Cola's brand. Simply Orange, Fresca, Honest Tea, Fuse Tea, Mellow Yellow, Smart Water, Vitamin Water, Odwalla. All of these are within Coke's company, but they choose whether or not they want to make them the same branding, the same family brand, or they want to put them out on their own. Why would it matter? What could be good or bad about choices? Apple does everything under their own umbrella. Coca-Cola chooses to put brands out or buy brands and leave them alone under their own umbrellas.
You can
Wow.
have two of the leading, like Gain and Tide, same company.
Procter and Gamble both.
Like Fuse and Honest Tea.
Someone that like loves Pepsi may not want Dasani water because it's made by Coke and they don't like Coke. They haven't been
Right, if I said it was Coke water, it sounds weird. But absolutely. If I don't like your brand, maybe I don't want you to know that that's my brand. Could be. And yeah, I can absolutely looking at competitors to each other. Vitamin Water, Smart Water, Dasani Water, all competing against each other. What's the bad parts then?
If you do love that brand, that's less brand loyalty. Because like maybe I like Coke, but I'm not always willing to pay for Dasani water.
Maybe if they were all Coca-Cola branded, Coke's brand equity would be higher than it is. Because I know, maybe I love Sprite. Oh, you mean that's made by Coca-Cola? Huh. Okay. I like Dasani. Oh, that's Coke. Okay. Well, I like the water that's in my Dasani bottle. If they're using that same water and they're making Coca-Cola out of it, maybe that'd be good. Vitamin Water, Smart Water. Which one are the other one?
Dasani.
Dasani, yeah. Right here together. I don't even know what Del Val is, Seal is. They're probably global brands that are not as available here. But if I got three water brands against each other, they're all coming up with their own branding, their own packaging, their own promotions, their own websites. They're paying ad dollars to try and build each one's brand equity. Which means I might be duplicating resources. Advertising promotion resources, labor resources, because I bet Dasani has somebody in charge of it, and Vitamin Water has somebody in charge of it, and if I put them together, we could fire that person and save the labor. Maybe. They have their own reasons. Back and forth, you can choose. That's one of those decisions sometimes you make accidentally. Like, hey, it's Coca-Cola. Guess what? We're going to buy Powerade. Okay, we're going to change the name? Nah, leave it alone. Suddenly you have multi-brands under your umbrella. Or, of course, you can make very specific choices with your branding from the beginning. When you start the company, Apple was named Apple Computers. They explicitly had to change their name to Apple when they started making other stuff. because they wanted it to be all under their same umbrella and not let consumers be confused by saying Apple Computers is announcing a new phone. Because it's subtle, but it has some psychological meaning behind it. Individual and family brand. Co-branding. This is actually what your assignment this week's going to be based on, so I'm going to kind of let you learn a little bit on your own. Ingredient, cooperative, complementary branding. When multiple companies come together, that's co-branding in all its different forms. You're going to look up some different examples of each one of these. Ingredient branding, of course, is if I take one company's products and put it inside somebody else's. If I have a Honda engine in my Troy-Bilt lawnmower, that would be an ingredient. It's going into the larger product. They're probably both going to be listed on the box. If I have Hershey's chocolate in my Pillsbury cookie, that's an ingredient going into the larger product. Cooperative branding is when two companies are absolutely put together on the marquee as equals. If you're hosting a charity golf tournament and one of your sponsors is Hilton and one of your sponsors is United Airlines, they're co-branding together to sponsor that event, and they're both getting equal billing. Does that make sense? They're co-branding together to make the whole thing bigger, but neither one of them is going into the other, neither one of them is below the other. They can absolutely play together. Complementary stuff, if I put two different brands that naturally work well together, that naturally can fit together, that might naturally be bought together, we might come up with a partnership so that we both benefit from it. I have an example on that end too. Sort of, kind of. Listen under complementary. I don't need your help. Cold Stone Creamery, ice cream company. Jelly Belly, jelly bean candy company. Put them together, you can get Cold Stone Creamery's signature creation ice cream flavored Jelly Bellies. This is not the ingredient because they're not literally taking some Cold Stone ice cream and putting it in the Jelly Belly. They're taking the complements of, you liked this company's flavor, you can find it in our product now. The beans are inspired by Cold Stone Creamery's signature creation ice cream flavors and taste just as creamy and delicious. Each flavor tastes like it was just scooped onto a waffle cone. No dripping, no melting. Compliments. Putting two companies together, trying to convince the consumer you liked one, you'll still like it over here. Benefits to both companies, maybe. Like I said, you'll be doing that this week. Trademarks. The exclusive right to use a brand. Service mark, trademark, same function. That little Apple logo with the bite out of it and the little leaf on the top. I can't open a store here on Main Street and call it Apple Computer Repair and have a little apple with a bite out of it and a little leaf sticking on the top. Apple will sue me and they will beat me and I will be sad if they find out. A lot of the brand, the symbols qualify for trademark protection. It comes from use rather than registration. That's what's kind of interesting. A patent is absolutely built on registration process. If I come up with a new doohickey and I patent that, you can't make my doohickey and sell it without my permission. That's a technical term. But trademarks, just like we saw in the little branding video, we Google stuff, we Photoshop pictures, we YouTube that. When brands start being used as verbs, we can still try and trademark it. But if we just let it go, if we let a competitor start using it, if we let the market just take it over, it's very hard for us to then capitalize on it. It's very hard for us to keep an identity there. One of those purposes of branding. And this absolutely applies in the digital world, which is what lawmakers and judges have had to figure out. How does this work? Because it was a lot easier to say, I have trademarked this book from a copyright standpoint. You can't write my words down. But things like pictures, I can go Google image search anything. And if I then put it on my package, well, I've stolen it from you. As a photographer, if it's another brand's, and had to deal with some of that, trying to figure out how to fight that. If we fail to protect our trademarks, they can become not protectable. Maybe quick. Yeah. We'll stop. We have 2 2 slides left again. These are more important slides, so we'll actually look at these on Wednesday.